Hello and welcome back. So if you're joining us for the first time, thank you for watching, and I hope if you like this video you'll give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future videos. If you watched the last one, the last video that I did, I was so excited about a new idea that I had the other night that I had to share that, and so I kind of went off on a little tangent with my next idea, but I wanted to get back to working on this keepsake journal and get it finished up and finish this series before I start the new one. So today I wanted to kind of show it to you before I get all this section put together, because it's kind of easier to see it taken apart first. I don't want to take my time because I'm so new at this still. I'm very slow, and I didn't want to take my time for all the thought process and things. So I like to get a section started and then break it down into small bits so that I can maybe describe how I do those and even do little demonstrations on something else so that you can kind of see how it all is going together. So this was one of those type of sections. I had an idea again overnight, and I had to get up and kind of quickly engineer it before I forgot how I put it together in my dream. So if you've just joined me for the first time and you don't know what I'm working on here, I had shown a video of a flip through of a really colorful keepsake journal. So if you go back and watch that one, you'll kind of see how this one will hopefully end up. So I started this series as more of a tutorial to start from scratch, so that if you want to craft along with me, like I said, I've broken it down into little small bits so you can work on a page or two like I do it. Sometimes it takes me a couple of days with everything else going on. So far, I can't even remember how many episodes we have, but this keepsake journal is made from an old Reader's Digest book. So grab one of those. You're going to be removing some pages and that kind of thing to fit in all the fun stuff. So if you watch the first few videos, you'll kind of get caught up with this. There's going to be a paper folded heart here in this section in the center. In the other colorful journal, I had done it at the front and then the rest of the journal. So this one I wanted to mix it up a little bit different from the flip through that I showed before, just, you know, to learn some new things. So I've paper clipped off where my heart's going to go. That's what these are for. And then I have done the back half first, because I did this little secret pocket area that has a little recess. So that's in one of the first videos, because like I said, I started in the back. I decided as I'm doing this front part of the book that I wanted to do another one of those recesses. So if you've watched along, you know that on my heart, I'm going to have a heart here. On either side of the heart, I had already picked out the papers I wanted to use with these birds, because this one is going to say things I love about me, and I'm going to do a cute little thing here with that. And this one was going to say things I love about you, because it's a heart. So I was going to do, like, in my mind, this journal may get sold, but in my mind, you know, my husband, things I love about you, and things I love about me. So I've discussed this in the previous videos, so you can watch that. But that's kind of where I started with this, and then my thought process worked my way out. But because I know I wanted to do these recesses, I wanted them to be against the front and back of the book. So what we're going to work on today is the front recess. And I did want to show that before I put it all together, because somebody actually did have a question about these sections that have big gaps, showing me actually gluing it in. So I will do that when I get to another big one like that. This one is just going to be a single folio fold, so it's not going to be exactly the same, but because it does involve a pop out kind of recess thing, I did want to show me putting it together. So what I started out with, let me get rid of some of this. What I started out with in my mind was these are all done, and then this one has the paper picked out. So I needed to kind of decide what I was going to do here with the rest of the front of the book. So I knew already that the paper that I wanted for my inside, back, and front cover. So that would kind of help guide me. When I see this book, it's going to be sitting on a shelf this way. So I kind of like it to look interesting and see some bold pattern and different color and things in there. So I decided to go really bold on the front and back with this kind of harlequin looking paper. And it came from that same paper pack. I'll share that again, but I'm working, if you're just joining me for the first time, I'm working with mostly this paper pack, Sweet Ambrosia. So again, I'll put the link to that. And it's a good pack. If you're just starting out, you know, like I am, and you don't maybe have a lot of supplies, a lot of paper in your stash, then it's kind of nice to work with one paper pack that has all the different papers. And then like this one even had some little cutout things that you could cut out for labels and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm using. I'm not going to glue this in yet because I haven't done anything to the outside of my book, and I'm probably going to paint or something on this. And if I do that, I want to put this in after just so I can do this inside edge. So I'm going to wait, but I did want to get it figured out just so I can start choosing the rest of my papers. And this book had fallen apart on the front cover. And the more I kind of put in and squish and do different things, it had actually broken apart again. So what will help me keep all this together is when I have one continuous piece of paper glued in there. But in the meantime, it was really pulling away. So I went ahead and redid my tape again and put more on here of this Gaffer's bookbinding tape, just to keep it together while I'm working on it. So I will do that at the end. But like I said, I wanted to go ahead and get this paper in. And I'm mentioning this because when I did this, there's already kind of a little trough here, naturally, the way the book is put together on the front and the back. And it creates, you can't just do a fold in half folio that will fit in there. It wants to go around that little trough. So what I did was I measured from here to here, from here to the first part of the trough, because that is flat. And then I measured kind of how wide the trough was going to be so that I could do some score marks. And that way I have kind of this little angled fold. That way it's going to fit in there perfectly. I'll be able to glue it down without gaps or anything. And I want to do that because I need this to kind of help hold my book together when it's all finished. So I wanted to point that out because it's just kind of that little detail. And it turned out the front and the back were the same size, so I was able to, once I did one, know how to get the pattern for the other side. And to do that, I have a scoreboard. I've shown that before. And I'm going to approach each one of these. If you've seen them before or you have more experience, feel free to fast forward through them. I do that a lot on videos that I watch, but you know, if it's just something repetitive. But I just like to show tools and things because there are a lot of brand new people out there, and I keep being reminded when they write in the comments or go find my Facebook page and write in the comments. They're letting me know how much they appreciate that. So I'm going to always continue to share tools because sometimes I find a new or upgraded one too. You never know. So scoreboard is this, and this one is from Martha Stewart. I got it for like $8 on the clearance at Michael's one time. So keep an eye out always on the clearance section. You never know what kind of good things you'll find. This one actually came with patterns for envelopes and boxes and cards. So I've shown that whole thing in a video before. You may be able to go back and find that one, and then you can kind of get a more detailed how this thing works. But there's little score marks at every like 1/8 inch increment. So it came also with a little scoring tool that fits in there. So you can lay your paper out, and I'm going to show you how this actually works on another part of this video. But this is one way to do that score mark. I use it a lot for my little booklets I make. I'm going to show that too. The other kind of scoreboard that you can find are, this one's from Recollections, and this is just a little mini paper cutter. And this one's nice because it has a cutting tool and a scoring tool. I understand, this one came with both of these, but I understand you can get replacements of these. So if yours doesn't have a scoring tool, you can probably buy this one separately, the little scoring one. And if you can't, if you don't find that, you can also, it already has the little trough in here just for the paper cutting. you know, here. So that's where it does the score mark. So if you want to score that and you don't have a scoring tool or anything like that, you can take, this is just a little bone folder, and you could do the same thing. I'm just going to stick this in here just to see. You could take that and then run along that score mark and get your, it's just easier to fold in a straight line when you do that. So you don't have to have all the fancy tools. If you have a paper cutter that has a little trough, even a big one, the big guillotine kind, they'll have that little trough too maybe, and then you can just line your paper up and score there. So that's a handy thing. I use those a lot. So I think if you're just starting out, come up with something that will do your score lines really straight. Okay, so that's that. And then I wanted to do another recess. I had this idea in my dreams. So I wanted to show, because I kind of, when I did this one, I actually even came up with, I'm not even sure what order I did this one in, but I came up with something I thought was easier. I think when I showed the first one, I got my pages together and then I just started cutting before I glued anything, I think. I'd have to actually go back and watch my video to see, but this time I decided, you know, if I maybe glue this outside edge first, then it will be even easier to cut the cutout. So what I did was I have a bunch of these, and I actually went online today to see if I could find, I'm not sure where I got them, find a link for you to get these, because I mean, you're going to use a lot of them when you do this kind of stuff. So I had bought these when I was making lampshades. And I do want to point out, they're called bulldog clips. So you can find them online, just, you know, Google bulldog clips. The thing to look out for is this is nice and flat and deep. So when you put things in there, the whole reason I use these is to clamp things I'm trying to glue together while it dries for a minute. I have these other little decorative ones that are cute, you know, for closures and stuff. But if you see, I don't know if you can see that, it doesn't have that big flat part like this one does. So this one is only going to clamp things on the edge. And I want to clamp it as much into the paper as I can. So when you're shopping for these, look for the kind that have the big flat ones. Some look like this, but they're not that big and flat. So you just kind of keep an eye out for that. So I took these the first time, and how I decided how deep to make my recess was how much paper would fit in my clamp. So I portioned that off, and then I clamped it really good the whole way. And if you butt them right next to each other like this and go all the way around the whole thing, all your pages stay nice and lined up when you're gluing it together. So what I did to glue it before I put the cut out the pages is I would take like 2 rows of clamps and then glue this other side. Let it dry for just a few minutes, put clamps on it while it's drying, you know, put the glue on, put clamps, let it dry. And then while that's clamped, now I had 2 sides clamped, I took the clamps off of here, put glue on this outside edge, put the clamps back on, and then did the 3rd side. So doing that, I found actually made it much easier to cut out my pages. Then what I do is I take a little metal ruler. Where'd my little metal ruler go? And this is another tool. I'm going to mention this, and I think that I'm going to do a video at some point just about tools, because again, people who are just starting out, you don't know maybe which ones you're going to need. And because I am brand new to all this, I know which tools that I am using for every project. And sometimes you need more than one ruler. So this is one that I bought through my jewelry stuff. It's just a little metal 6-inch ruler. It has a little conversion tables on here, which is nice for, you know, even drilling, things like that. So this is from my jewelry stuff, but I do like that it's a small one, because sometimes I need just the small one, and then it doesn't have the cork on the back like my big one, my big art one does. So this one, when you're cutting something with an X-Acto knife, it lays flat against the paper. So I like this small one. I do have a larger artist one that I do like. It has the cork on the back. So if all you have, once you've done your measurement and made your little mark where you need to cut, you can flip this over so it's also flat, and then do your cut. So these two I use all the time. And then I also use a clear ruler, an acrylic one. And I like that because when I'm doing, like when I'm hand drawing lines for lined paper, I can see through it where the next line is and make sure they're all kind of straight. So those are my 3 rulers I use the most. So that was a little sidetrack, but there you go. So once I have my papers glued together, then I kind of just go by where the text is. I just want to cut the text out. It doesn't really matter. I can make it smaller because I usually end up covering this anyway, but you make it whatever size that you want it to be. In my case, I just took the words out. So on the first one, you know, I would just do 1 page at a, you know, first, just to get my thing started. And then from there, I just use my X-Acto knife. Where'd it go? I had some little munchkins in here last night, and so I'm not, oh, here it is. So I just a little X-Acto knife, and then I just lined it up, and I just did, like I said, just do maybe 1 or 2 pages to get yourself started. And then it's really much easier once you start getting some depth to go through. Now, if you're gonna be, you don't wanna go all the way through to whatever's behind here. So I'd usually just throw, this is my protection, I guess. It's just a file folder that I use, and I just stick that back there so I don't go too far through. Now, you see that I have something in the back here. I've put that on, I've already glued it. When you cut through your paper, cut through it, and just imagine this isn't here right now. You want to leave that open when you're gluing your inside of your cutout. And there's a couple of reasons you want to do that. One is when you have it all cut out, you now have to glue this inside and clamp it again. And it's easier to clamp depending on if say your cutout is smaller, your clamps aren't going to reach from the outside all the way to the inside. So you have to clamp from the inside. So you don't want this back here. So you're just going to basically imagine this is just a frame, picture frame, and you'll just, again, glue one side. This made it easier because I already had the outsides glued. So that was already stuck. And I think when I did this, maybe just 2 coats on each side was plenty. So once I had the inside cut out, then I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to do one side, and again, clamp right next to each other, because that is going to get everything stuck. You won't have little ripples or bubbles or anything. So you do that, again, 2 coats there. And then on the first one I had actually made a mistake and glued this in before I was ready. And you can see I pulled it out, and then when I glued it back, I had it flipped the other way. That's why there's that line there. So that's okay. I took it off because I needed that to still be open. And the reason is because I needed to make my door in the paper I was going to put on here. And I couldn't do that exact. I needed to use this as a tracing pattern. So again, if you imagine that this is not here, I had my decorative paper that I had chosen, and I wanted to make a fold down door like this that was attached still to this. So I had already glued this on, and so I couldn't see through to do my pattern. So I took it off, and then I had made my fold score mark so I knew exactly where the paper was going to fit here. And then I just drew on the back where my opening, and I only wanted to cut out 3 sides because I wanted it to be like a hinged door. Okay, so I know I haven't kind of told you what this whole idea was, but we'll get there. So that's the first thing that I wanted to do a demo of, because I don't, there may be another video out, somebody may have done this already, but I had it in a dream, and so I kind of felt like I had to engineer it, you know, what I was going to do. So once I had picked out the paper that I wanted, I decided to do the inside and just do cardstock, just plain old cream colored cardstock. And my idea was to have this be like an accordion file folder kind of thing that would pull out kind of like a little garbage bin or something, you know how they'll kind of fold out like this. So that was my idea, but I had no idea how to build it. And I thought, okay, I just need to make this little accordion thing, and then little sections inside, and then it would be attached to the back here. and then attach to my door and open kind of like this and just be a little place to stick things. So that was my idea, but I didn't know like dimensions or what I needed to do. So I'm going to show you how I came about that. This was my first one I started. I had it all ready to go. And then I decided I wanted it to pull out a little bit more than that. It made my sections were a little too skinny. So I decided to make it a little bit bigger. So what I did was I took my dimension of my opening, and I knew that that's the largest it could be. So I made, in my mind, just a little tiny bit shorter. And that might have been the other thing when I did this one. I think I actually even had to trim a little off the top, because once I got it all together and fit in here with this frame and everything, I think that one ended up being, when I did my dry fit, like it wasn't going to open and close very well. So I made another one. So this one is a little bit bigger. You can see my sections are a little bit bigger for things. And you know, the door's probably not going to close all the way, because even though I have the recess, once you put things in there, it may bulge a little bit, but that's okay. I mean, that's kind of the fun of it. So the reason I want to kind of show you how this goes together is, if you'll notice, I did my score marks, but they're not all flat this way. They kind of ended up at an angle, and I'll show you kind of why I think that happened. This one came out a little bit more straight. So you have to kind of take that into consideration as you're building the insides of this. So I'm going to show how this is kind of just a winging it thing. So what I started with was, when I got to what my final size was going to be, I started with a piece of, what did I do with it? This is just plain cardstock. And I decided, the small one that I did, I think I had done 6 inches deep. And then the height of my opening, which is like close to 6 inches. So I did this 5 3/4 for the up and down. And then what's going to come out was 8 inches. Now that looks huge, but it's not going to be when I'm finished. So I took my scoreboard and I decided that I wanted to have 1 inch on either side to glue to the back of my book and to the door that's going to flop open. So I started with making a score mark at 1 inch, and then I come in at 7 inches. Now you can do whatever you want, but I just thought this is a good amount to glue, that it's all going to stay. Okay, and then I decided I needed to decide how big I wanted my accordions. So I went to 1/2 inch just because it was easier. So just go all along the whole thing and make your, you can see why this tool is much easier than putting it in that other one where I would be moving the paper all the time. This, you just kind of keep it all in the same spot. Makes it easy. And I love this thing too, because like I said, it does cards. You can do trifold cards. It actually has in this lid here, I've shown this before. It's always hard to open for some reason. But in this lid are the dimensions that you need to make boxes and things. And then there's actually another little angled corner part of this tool that goes here. And it has all the envelope dimensions and things. So it tells you where you need to make your score marks. So if you're going to do a lot of different things, like you make your own cards and boxes and stuff, this is really a neat tool for more than just this kind of thing. Okay, so I've done that one side, and I think I should go ahead and do the other side. Maybe not. I'll use my other demo to show you. Okay, so once you have that, then just use your same tool and get all those flattened out. And I think if you'll be able to see this, I think you'll understand why those came out uneven. So if you look really closely, the score mark is actually the thickness of this, which might be like a 32nd or something. It's not much, but over a long span, it adds up, right? So if when I'm folding this, my fold is maybe more towards one side and the next one is more towards the other side, this little section is going to be bigger than the next one, right? So that's why that came out at at this angle. And then this one I was trying to be more careful, and it's still a little off, but it's better, okay? It doesn't really matter at all, because when you're gonna pull it out, nobody's gonna ever see that. The only thing that is important, and why I'm pointing it out, is because you can't just cut all these pieces of paper that go inside. They're not gonna be the same size. This one is gonna be from the inside of that to the inside of that, but it started shrinking, right? It got smaller up front. So that means this piece that attaches to my door is this width. So it's gonna attach a little into the door, and that's okay. But you can see each one of these, this one's a little bit bigger, and this one's a little bit bigger, and then this one's the biggest. So that's the only reason I'm pointing that out, because I had to learn that along the way, you know, and ended up having to make 2 of them to get it all to fit right. Okay, so that is my inside. Now, when I was thinking about it, if you look at a file folder that's an accordion one, there's actually a piece on the bottom, because you don't want things falling through, right? In my case, because my door was still attached to my paper, and this part is gonna go in that recess of my book, stuff won't fall through. So I don't have to worry about doing this, which made that one step easier, okay? So if you're gonna use this as like a freestanding envelope that you're gonna do for something else, you need to keep that in mind. You'll need a piece of something to go around the bottom just to keep things from falling out. So we'll pull out the book again. And I haven't done this yet because this was the kind of part I don't know how it's gonna work. So I might do it in front of you and we'll just see if it works. As far as putting this in and then needing to glue it to the door. You know, it's not like I think I might glue it to the door first, and then hopefully I can get enough pressure when I put glue on the back to get it to stick. So we'll see how that works. But the next step that I needed to do, once I had my door cut out and I had my door cut out here, then I could go ahead and I could put this back paper on. So all I did, I had kept a couple of book pages, this cover page obviously, and then maybe I had one more. I kept those, so I had those to glue to, but then I also wanted just a plain piece of cardstock in here, just for extra sturdiness, because I only had those 2 pages and my book was falling apart. I want it to really be as sturdy as possible. So I went ahead and did that. If you're not gonna see it, like in my case, you're not gonna see it. This is gonna be glued down to that. I wouldn't really care what this looked like. So if you don't need the extra sturdiness, then you don't need to put that extra piece of cardstock in there. You'll just be covering it like that. Now on the back one, when I did that one, when you take the book out, because it comes all the way out, you are gonna see that. So I did do a decorative paper back there. So it just depends on what end result you want, okay? So I have this part done, and now I had to go work on my pages that's the cute paper that's gonna go in here. So I wanna get all that finished before I glue anything in, just because it's easier and I like to do stitching around things. So I went ahead and I did my stitching around the edges just on my little sewing machine. And I had bought just a cheap Singer sewing machine from Walmart that I use just for this kind of stuff. I don't use my fancy good one that I use for fabric. That way, if anything happens to it, because sometimes you're going through glue, and when I noticed when I sewed my handmade paper, I opened the little bobbin door and there's so much fuzzy stuff in there from my handmade paper. I had to, you know, I used my little air cleaner thing and blow all that out. But you don't do that on your good machine, because all that stuff ends up in the bowels of your machine and can really ruin it. So use a cheap machine if you can. So anyway, I did all the little sewing around the edges, and I did around the door. And then I decided to do a little corner pocket on this side, because I'm going to make another little booklet that we'll do today to put in here. And I went ahead and did my little label. Now, if you've watched the other ones, when I do these little labels, this paper pack came with some pages of little cutout things that you can use, which was really nice. So I decided for this book, each little insert book was going to have a title of some kind. And I'm loving how this one is turning out. So I think I have them all figured out now. So I've been just actually making the labels. So this one's wishes. And then I liked the idea of wishes for this one because it's kind of, they're tucked away. You know, you don't always tell people what your wishes are. They're secret, right? So this is kind of more of a little secret space. And then a pull-out book here. This one's going to be hopes. So you go from your wishes to your hopes. And then my next section, which I actually had started this, the very first section of my book, and I haven't put it in yet because I wasn't sure where it was going to go. But I just had picked out the paper and made this little book. So this one's dreams. And then I may do one on this side that says goals. So you go from wishes, hopes, dreams, goals. And then it'll be things I love about you, things I love about me. And then this is the little art journal, which I haven't put a title on yet, but I will. And then I had gratitude for a gratitude journal, reflections, and memories. So I kind of liked how all those things flowed. When I made my little tags, I have an old vintage typewriter that works. And so I like using it for doing my little labels on my tags. You can do them on your printer and print them out, but I kind of like how the old typewriter, not every letter is the same pressure, so some are darker than others, and I just kind of like how handmade, old-fashioned that looks. I've shown these before when I do those, and this is just another thing I'll show quick just because I love this other little tool, another for sure thing. So I use my metal ruler. I have it typed out, and this is actually typed out on just a book page that I've torn out. I just used where I had space here that was clear, and here you can use, I just used that area for my typing, okay? And then I use my little metal ruler and this water pen. I love this thing. So if you haven't seen one of these, I'm not an artist, like a painter, I can't draw for anything, that kind of thing. I'm practicing, but I'm not very good at it. I have found that watercolor stuff is your savior. So you can get watercolor pencils like this, and they'll say right on there that they're for watercolor. And these aren't expensive ones, I don't think. But the neat thing is you draw something with the colored pencil, and then you can just use a brush dipped in water. But I love this because it holds the water. You just screw this off, and it's one of those things where like you squeeze, and then when you let go under the faucet, the water goes inside, you know, like when you grab a straw and you cover the top and then you release it, that kind of idea. So the water, it's just full of water all the time, and then it's just a little wet brush, and you can squeeze a little more water out if you need it. But this is handy. So I take this and I use my ruler, and then I go, you know, maybe 3 brushes, and then I use this to just tear that edge. So I like a torn edge a lot, and I've ordered, Tim Holtz has a decal edge paper cutter, big guillotine kind, and I have one ordered. It's not here yet, but I can't wait to get it because I know I'm going to use it for my handmade paper. I need to cut a lot of things, and I want to use that. I did buy a set of these rulers. These are like tearing rulers. These are from We Are, I always forget what this is called. We Are Memory Keepers or something like that. It's that same company. I have a few of their things that are favorites. So this brand, so far I've been happy with everything I've gotten. But it's really neat. There's a little track in here kind of that's open that you could use that as a scoring area maybe too. I don't know. I haven't tried it, but a good way to draw a nice straight line. But then you can... and I'm sure that's probably there so that when you tear, you can line that up with, you know, to make your tears straight, even though it's jagged. And I've tried this. I did a sample of all of them, and they do work. You use your water pen, and you go through, and then you tear. But that's kind of another fun tool to get. Not the most necessary. I haven't used it a ton, but I just thought it was fun to try. So you make your little tag, and then for this one, I just layered it. I used one of the little cutout tags that a piece of paper from this group, and then this was one of the little fussy cutout ones that I did. And then I just I had some what do they call it, tulle, and some bigger tulle, that I had. Just kind of netting, you know, just for something. And then a little bit of lace. And I used my watercolor pencil to kind of make a border, and it ended up too dark. So I put this little glitter on here with just a little glitter glue, and then added another bit of glitter. So I'm not a huge glittery person, but this paper already had it on there. So I wanted to just add little bits of sparkle, you know, for that. So I did that. And then I did some sewing on this one, sewed it together. And then to stick each part, you can glue those down. But I also, one of my other favorite tools, and I show this all the time too, is this Xyron sticker, Create a Sticker Mini. And this one does 2.5 inches wide. You basically put what you want in there, and then you crank it, and it comes out on sticker backed paper. And it's just for stuff like this, it's just an easy way for me to quick stick things on. Because usually those are going on after. I have a tendency to put my label on once I have the page kind of done, and I don't want to stow, or sometimes I don't want to get it too wet with glue, so I just use that sticker thing and stick it on. You could use a glue stick too, that would work, but again, I like to share all my little tools because I'm a tool junkie, I guess. The other thing that I really like that I spray on my backs of my little tags, I did it on this one too, is kind of one of my very, very favorite things, is this Imagine Sheer Shimmer Craft Spray. And I get this at Michael's. They don't always have it in stock, so I ordered it online. I actually ordered a couple of bottles because you see how fine it is. It's just a tiny bit of shimmer, but it's almost, you know, I don't even know if you'll be able to see it on this one, but just a squirt or two of this, and it comes out really neat. I'm going to do it on this one here just so you can see again, since it doesn't show too much. I have on these, you can see the colors different. I've gone ahead and used my Vintage Photo Distress Oxide that I'm totally addicted to. This again is one, if you can only buy one of these for your going around your edges, this is my favorite color and the one I used most. If I didn't have another one, I would be okay with that. So this one really just like one squirt is all you need. And you get a little shimmer. It's wet right now, but I wanted to do that because what it does is it'll kind of make that ink bleed a little bit. I don't know if I'm even in the, there you go. It'll make that ink bleed a little bit, which I kind of like because it kind of softens it a little bit. You can let that dry, just air dry, or you can use a little heat gun on it and it'll dry much faster. Because this does take a few minutes, but I don't need that right now, so I'm not going to worry about it. And then I want to clean that off my craft mat. So the next thing I did, once I got that little guy on there, is I had to figure out my closure. And I don't know, for some reason, I always want to do something different throughout the book, not do the same exact thing everywhere. And so I had a heck of a time trying to decide how I wanted to close this. And again, it's another reason why you do all this before you glue it into your book, because I needed to get through to the back side. So what I did, I finally decided this wasn't a really big enough space for a button, to do a button and a button, you know, the kind that kind of do the Crazy 8 kind of idea. I didn't have enough width here unless I used a little button, and I didn't really want to do that. So I decided I really loved how this ribbon turned out. So I thought I'll do that as my wraparound on a button just on the front. So to do that, what I have done, in case I'm doing this for new people, is I really like to use these eyelets. I always forget what they're called. I think that's what they're called, eyelets. Because it's paper, and if it's something that's going to have wear and tear on it, even if it was a closure like this that just had 2 ties, you can just punch a hole and do it through the paper, but over time it might come through or tear the paper. So I always like to put that reinforcement there. So if you haven't done those before, ooh, I got to move my camera a little bit. I covered my door because I wanted to do one. I might have to move this again, get in my frame. Sorry about that. So what you need to do this is just like a little bin of different sizes that all came together. And I probably got these at Michael's or somewhere, I don't even know. But I'll do one of these to practice on. And then I did buy, these are like from Leather, making belts and stuff. I got, these are 3mm size. I was able to find packages of these. I got antique brass, and then I think I got a gunmetal. And these, I bought these online at Craft Me More, and they're 3mm eyelets. And so that they're all, I always found that I needed these shorter ones for paper stuff. They make them with, like, I'll call that a shank, a longer shank. And I have some like that in here that are tinier, but with a longer, but for paper, then that's too thick. That would be good if you wanted to use them to make a scrapbook. Say you wanted to do lots of pages, then you would need one with a longer shank. And maybe I'll do that sometime so you can kind of see what I mean by that. But all you do is, it has a bigger flat, if you can see that, this is the top. It has a bigger flat side, and then on the back side is where that little shank is. So all you do, and I'm gonna just do this on a little, I had a little visitor, and she found my hole punch and was making a kitty cat on one of my tags, and I will make a nose for it just to give her a little chuckle. So I'm just gonna, this punch has a corresponding size to the hole that I need for my little eyelets. So before I was doing this, honestly, I didn't even know and you can find leather punches and stuff, but I never even thought that they made paper punches in different sizes, and they do. So that was kind of neat. I have one that's actually a little bit smaller than this that I like to use too. So I'm just gonna punch a little hole where my thing needs to go. And then, I'm not good with fingernails. So that's my top. And then you just flip it over. Now I usually put something under here. In my case, because I work on jewelry, I'll grab my steel block. If you don't have something like this, even like I've got like a little flat piece of scrap metal, just something that to protect, I don't know if I'm in the thing, to protect your tabletop. Otherwise it's gonna maybe leave a donut like divot in there. So then you do that, and I forgot to grab my hammer. You can just use a regular hammer. I have, because I do jewelry, I have these big heavy hammers. So I'm just gonna, this has a little, you can see that it has like a little flower shape. Almost looks like a snap, you know, if you're sew and you add snaps, it kind of looks like half a snap. There's like a little raised part in the middle. It's gonna imprint kind of a flower out that shank, and that's what's gonna hold it into your paper. So you just do this and go about 5 times. And you see this is in the back side that made this little flower shape. Okay, and I still have my front. So you can decide which side you want to show, because maybe you like the flower and you want it to look like a flower. So that's just kind of a fun thing. These are even cute. I've done these in the center of a flower. Like say you've drawn a flower on a piece of paper, or your paper has a flower pattern on it already. It's just kind of a cute other little thing that you can do, and then you can stick something through it or not, just as another little decorative thing. So that's eyelets if you've never used those. I think that's another tool that's nice to have. The other thing that they're good for is then you can stick a brad through here, you know, a decorative brad, and have be part of your closure, that kind of thing. So I'm just, another little idea. So I decided for my book to use the front side because I'm gonna see that, and then I wanted to pull a ribbon through there. And then this one, originally I had the front be on this back because I thought I was just gonna have it show, but then I decided to use a button on each side and use that to sew my button to it. So there's actually an eyelet in there, and that was just kind of a tunnel for my thread to go in and out, and so that it won't rip my paper. So that was just a little pearlized button. I have an addiction to little drawers. I have lots of them. In fact, I just ordered another one from an antique store in Oregon that I saw online, and it was like, oh, I have to have that. So I have a bunch of different things with little drawers, and so that's how I store my buttons. I kind of do them by color or kind. So these are all the pearl buttons. I'll have black buttons in one. I think the thing has 8 drawers, so it turned out being enough to really sort my buttons. But that's just another little organizational thing. So I used a little pearl button here, and then I just used a little small one on the back, because you know when you have the door open, actually in my case you're not going to see it, but if I had this be a removable book you would, but it's going to be glued to the back of this. So I guess it doesn't really matter. So put the button on, get all that sewn around there, do this. For the ribbon, I wanted to show this too, because this is just, I really liked how this one turned out. You can see my color's not exactly the same, because by the time I did this one, I didn't even remember how I made this one. And so I wanted to show that because that's kind of another little lesson. I love this seam binding ribbon. I used to use this a lot, so I have scraps of it. From this was actually back when I used to make these vintage looking, I would take a vintage lamp and make a cute little lampshade. So I had bags of this, but when I bought it, I buy it in bulk. It's called seam binding ribbon if you go online, and it comes in colors and things, but I always just bought this off-white one because I would tea stain it, do different things to it, and I never knew exactly what I was going to use it for, so I would just buy the white. So how I did that is you can then dye it any color you want. You can use some of your mixed media stuff that you might have, which is what I did, to dye it. And in this case, I had just wanted that blush color. So I'm not a huge pink person, so I don't like have pink dyes and that kind of thing. But I had ordered this, and so I wanted to show it because it's a perfect thing for this. This is Jane Davenport Palette Pastels. So it's kind of like another thing like watercolors. Like I said, I'm not a good artist, so I like this kind of stuff because it's kind of forgiving. So this one's called Birthday Suit, and I bought it because if I wanted to draw faces or make faces, you want those colors that you might need for makeup. And so that's what it looks like. You could probably actually just go to your makeup drawer and use that too if you don't have this. But I had bought it, so I thought I'd use it. So for this one, I can't remember. I think I used this color, one of these colors. So all I did was I took my water bottle, and I want to spritz this a little bit. Am I in the frame? Yeah. Spritz that a little bit just to make it easier for it to soak in there. And like I said, I can't remember how I did that first one, so here's my lesson. If you find a color you like as you're doing this, do a bunch of it, because that way, I'm gonna pick this one. This one's a different one, but since I couldn't figure out which one I used first, we'll see if maybe it was this one. And I just used a makeup sponge, and I'm just doing it just like makeup. And then you have your colored, blush colored ribbon. And I really liked how this, but you see I have this whole big palette. I could mix them or, you know, do a variety. I kind of like too, when it's wet like this, it won't go over the whole thing the same. So it kind of might even have a little tie-dyed look. You could use this and mix the colors up and do a section, do kind of a rainbow thing. So, you know, use your imagination. And I'm kind of always one of those people, I like MacGyver, right? I might not have everything I need or the right thing. You think of, okay, what do I have? What can I use? Maybe you have food coloring. Maybe you're a baker. You know, maybe you wear makeup. You have that kind of thing. I've used nail polish for things and I don't even do my nails, but I have nail polish sometimes because I use it actually for other things. So you kind of just figure out what might work. So I did that, and I got that color, and see, that might be, I don't know if it's kind of my first one or not, but they all kind of go together. They all kind of go with the book, so I don't really care if they all match or not. I can use this for something. And then, of course, I liked it to have a little bit of shimmer, so I actually sprayed it with some of my sparkle. And it's real subtle. You're not going to even really see it on camera, I think, but I can see it. It's there. And then I'll take clean my thing again so I don't get it everywhere. And then I just get something that I can hold it with, and I keep this plugged in. It's just a heat gun, and it'll be noisy, and just dry it. I won't do it all the way. But the nice thing about that too is if your ribbon's all wrinkled, it's still wet, but it'll even kind of straighten it out without ironing it. So that's a fun thing to do. Again, once you find a color you like, make a bunch of it, because you're probably not going to remember what you did. When you mix stuff up and you're kind of just winging it, you won't remember your exact formula. So now I'll have that for later, and I'll put that in my ribbon bin. Okay, so we've done eyelet holding the ribbon, and in this case, I actually, I did a knot. I don't want it to be too bulky because you have to glue this on there, but I want it to hold too, because, you know, it might get pulled on, especially if I have it be really full, which is probably what's going to happen, right? So I went ahead and I did a knot, and I sewed it into the bottom of my stitching, and then I did a test and it actually pulled out. So then I put some more glue. This is that Aleene's, which I've shown this before too. You can use E6000 for all that kind of stuff too, and it dries, but it takes a little longer to dry. Aleene's mixed media adhesive, I found, is a little quicker drying, but it's very similar to E6000 in its consistency. It might be a little thinner, but it's still that clear kind of, you know, those glues that where you open, I don't even want to open this because it's going to start coming out, right? It's that kind. So that's a good one though when you need to really stick something like that. So I've got that ready, all ready to go here. Now I want my book for here. So I'm going to do just another little quick demo of my book because I love that tool. I've done it in other videos, but maybe this is the first video of mine you've ever watched. And so I want to show you so that you, maybe we'll go watch the other videos and see what else I've done. So I wanted to do a little, I need a paper towel to dry this. I wanted to do another little booklet because I just love, you know, this is more of a keepsake journal kind of thing. And so I love little pull-out booklets more than even just putting pages you can write on in the journal. I just think it's fun because then you can also take them out. Like say you're going somewhere and you want to write in it, or, you know, you're going to put thoughts in it or whatever, but you don't want to take the whole book. You could just take out part of it. So I took some paper that I knew that I liked for that section, and I just cut 4 by, I don't know what this is. 4 by 6 seems to always be a good one for a pocket. Yep, for the Reader's Digest size, sometimes a little smaller, but this 4 by 6 is a kind of a good size. So I did the cover, and on this one, again, like I did in this whole book, as opposed to the last book, I did just a single layer of cardstock. I went ahead, I'll show you when I take it out, but I went ahead and did 2 layers because I like the thickness it makes the book for the covers. So I did that, and then you'll be able to see when I take this out of here, but I use my my Recollection scoring cutter tool thing, and I make a score mark at 1/2 inch because I know that's about how much space I want for my binding. And I only do that on the front cover. And, you know, I've seen other videos and other people make booklets, and I don't see everybody doing that. And I always point it out because for me, I will show you on another little booklet why I do that. Where's the book? Look at this one. I do that score mark. This one's actually a little less than 1/2 inch, and I think 1/2 inch is better because, and I just do it on the front, it opens the book better. So, you know, you don't have to do the pages. They're gonna, you know, you're gonna do this as you go, right? But having that front one scored already makes it easier. Otherwise, you're gonna go try to write in this. If you haven't done that score, your fold is gonna end up being there, but it's gonna be wonky at the end. So this, to me, just makes it a nice, easy way to open your book. And I don't do it on the back cover. I mean, you could if you want, but unless you're going from the back, it doesn't, you know, you don't usually look at a book that way. So I just do the front, but that's why. So I did that first. Set that aside. So I've scored just the top cover. On this one, I went ahead and I did put paper inside. I don't always do it that way. If it's going to be really thick, usually I'll do just my cover first and put the holes in, and then I'll put the other pages in and then do the holes again to get them all lined up how I want. This one I didn't do a lot of pages, so I went ahead and just stuck the whole thing in here because you only have a certain amount of room to screw these down. Again, I'll show this tool. It's one of my favorites. You don't have to have one. You can just, you make a pattern where you want to punch your holes for your binding on a piece of paper and use that, or a piece of cardstock and use that as your pattern. You could do that, and that's just fine. And then you would just use an awl to make your holes. My awl is over on my jewelry table, so I won't show that. But you know what an awl is. It has a little pokey end, you know, and you can hammer it. Usually it's for wood, but you know, or jewelry. But it's just to kind of mark your holes without a pencil kind of thing. This one came with this kit. I've shown this many times before, but again, I'm going to do it again because I love it. It's from We Are Memory Keepers, and it's a whole kit. I think it was, I've put the link before and I'll do it again. I want to say it's $24-ish, something like that, 25, I'm not sure. And I noticed that Walmart, if you have a big Walmart superstore like we do, they carry this brand, not of everything obviously, but they'll have a few of their tools in their little craft section. So it's We Are Memory Keepers. I think Michael's also carries it, but they have their own website. You can just order them online and they show up at your door. So this one is a book binding kit, it's called, and it comes with this little felted pouch to hold it came with a little bit of waxed thread, which you can use. I also use upholstery thread, or this is button craft thread. It's thicker than just regular all-purpose thread. So I use this a lot because I want to color. And this one is not waxed, but if you sew at all, you know, you can wax your own thread. There's actually a little tool, I have it somewhere, but I'm not going to dig for it right now. But it's a little plastic thing that has wax inside, and you run your thread through it. And so you can actually wax your own thread if you want to do that. And it came with some needles, the bookbinding needles that I broke, and I really love them because they have a dull, they don't have a pointed end, they have a dull end, so they go through your pages really easy and you don't hurt yourself. But you can also, since I broke that needle, I have these are just heavy duty hand needles. They come with different curved ones. In fact, this little kit also came with a curved one too. But it comes with some bigger needles, and you can dull the end if you want with a file, but they work fine. Just be careful. So it came with that, and it came with this guide that I will show you, and then it came with a little booklet, which is why I kind of got it, because you can do all these fancy stitches, and I really like that. It shows you how to do the simple ones, but also the fancy ones. For this, just a straight stitch, if I had folded this book, just folded a folio, and my pages were inside like signatures, then you would use this one that's curved like this, and you just do it would just be down the spine, and then you do your sewing. This one over here, you flip this clear blue part, you flip it over the other way, so now the curve is this way, but this side's flat, so it'll lay everything flat. Then you twist these down. I've already put my book centered between some holes that I know I want to use, and then you use this tool to poke through, and because it's solid on the bottom, you're not going to poke through to your table. So if you don't have this and you've made a pattern, what I suggest is using a towel folded up or something to protect your table. I get butcher box shipments that come with these little padded things, so I save these, and then I use these to poke through things, because I'm sometimes poking through things that I'm not doing a book that's a straight line or whatever. So I'm gonna go here, and I hadn't really decided which pattern I was gonna do, so let's see. I try to do different ones depending on what the book tells me it wants to be here. Let's see. Some of them you need, I kind of always like these farther apart ones. That one's kind of a nice one. So let's see, I would need, I want to see if my holes are evened out. I guess I should have mapped this out first. So I would go, that would be the bottom over the top. So I need two rows. Okay, so I would go here, here, here. Yeah, I can go just all these black ones. I think I'm just gonna do that, and that'll be good. So this isn't so thick. It's thick, but not so bad. I can go through all the way through the pages and everything. I got a new light and video thing to hold my phone. Finally, I had bought a couple of them, and I had ordered one online, and I couldn't, where I need to record, I couldn't clamp it anywhere. So that was a waste of money, so I should probably sell it. It's brand new. but it needs to clamp like on a shelf or something like that for where I need it. It's just one of those so you can do your own little YouTube videos, selfie videos. But see, I don't have myself in it, and that so I had to find something where it would be overhead, flat overhead. And so I ended up finding at Walmart, of all places, in their electronics section. I was just walking by, and because it's Christmas, there's, you know, end cap things, and they had, it was like $35, $40 something, and it's a tripod that's adjustable. It's for selfies, but it has a ring light, so now I'm not working in the dark. So I'm just thrilled about that. It seems to be working so far. The biggest problem is it's a tripod, so the legs splay out, and it's not tall enough for me to do from the floor because it's intended to do selfies, and I needed it to be over my workspace, so I have to sit it on my work table, and then my legs are kind of in the way. So then I have to make sure my frame doesn't have camera legs in there. But it works. Finally, I'm not working in the dark because my workroom is kind of, looks like it's in a basement, even though it's at the highest point in the house because I live on the side of a mountain. And so my windows are up high and blocked by big rocks. So anyway, here's my holes punched. And I don't think I'll take the time to go and sew this for you today. I have done it in a previous video, but basically when you start stitching, you'll do that, follow the pattern in the book. You tend to start in the middle by their patterns, but because I like to make tassels on the side, on I use my sewing thread as an actual tassel at the end. So I decide where I want the tassel to come out. And that helps me decide where I want to start and stop my thread. But when you do these fancy stitches, you go around, you know, one direction from wherever, and it doesn't quite fill up all of your things in between because it should look same front to back. But by the time you get to the end, it's usually just a quick jump, you know, to each one to end up back at your starting thread. So I really like that whole the whole decorative stitch idea on my little books. So they're easy to do. They look hard, but they're not. But I think it makes it look really fancy and more like you spent more time, and it's really not any harder than anything else. But once I do that, I like to go with my ink here and just, it's made a little bit of a white mark where you punched through. I just go with my ink again and just kind of knock that white down. So that would be it. I'd have a little tassel here, and then I'll put my little hopes on that one, and then that'll fit in my book. So I wanted to show you that idea because, again, I'm using my clamps to get everything lined up. But if I just had even a paper pattern, I would put my paper pattern on top, put it on a towel, and do the same thing. So another little fun. I love making these little books. So one day I'm going to just sit and make a bunch of books all day. But all the different stitches, cute little labels, but I never seem to do that. I never seem to do the whole mass making thing. I always think I'm going to, but then I'm not sure what theme they need to be. I'm not sure what book they're going to go in, and so I don't want to, I want everything to kind of be matchy so far, apparently, even though I don't always think of myself that way. I'm usually the person that's like mixing unpredictable materials together, but for some reason, the last couple of books that I've made, I have been very coordinated. So that's why my next project is going to be a little bit different. So if you haven't watched that last video that I did with my new surprise idea, go back and watch it, and then you can work on the next book with us too, because it's going to be, I'd love to see everybody else's ideas. So I kind of wanted to make it a challenge for myself and for everybody else. So my little book is going to be, when it's finished, I'm going to go ahead and risk undoing that. It's just going to fit in there like that and be nice and cute. Right? So that is going to be that one. We'll put these clips back on so I don't mess my book up and put that aside. So now do I dare try to glue this in on camera? I don't know. Things might go afoul, but I guess I'll try. I don't know how long this video is getting to be, but if you're bored, you can just shut it off or fast forward to the end and see if I was able to do it. So I think I will start. I think it's going to be more critical to get this side lined up and then glue this one down. So, and I think the most critical thing again is going to be getting this lined up to the front cover and back cover so that it opens properly before I glue anything down. So let's see. I think I will do the front, this to the front. So I'm going to put my book in here. The other thing I did too, and I didn't mention, and it was just for me, is I did a little notch on these inner pages. This is going to be glued to the back, so it didn't need a notch, but I thought it'd be fun to notch these. And you know, I've shown this a zillion times too. I do that with my 2-inch circle punch. And obviously I couldn't fit this in here because it's really bulky. This one's by Fiskars, but it works great. So I had to do this before I put them in here, before I glued them in. So, you know, once you've cut the sizes, again, these are not the same size, they're different. I kind of stacked them where I thought the middle would be and just eyeballed it. And I did that before I glued them in here. So then when I did this, I glued the first one, that's my 1-inch overhang. I glued it to the back paper. And then I decided I wanted this back section. You'll notice it's deeper than this one. And the reason is because part of it's stuck in there recessed. If I'm gluing it to the back, which I'm gonna do, when you pull this out, it's not the whole depth, it's the depth of that pocket minus however deep my recess is. So I went ahead and I made it a little bit deeper than the other one. So I like that though. I think it's good. It could have been a little less, but it's my first one. We'll see, but I think that's gonna look good. So once I get that in there, I kind of see where lined up is. And I think because it's gonna have to open and close, I wanna butt it all the way to the bottom. I'd rather have a gap at the top and the sides than on the bottom. Okay, and then that's gonna go in here. So I think the easiest thing for me to do is see if I could clamp, me and my clamps. Hopefully I don't get my top of my head in the thing here. I'm gonna go ahead and try to see if I can fit a clamp on that. There. These clamps are my savior, I'm telling you. I use them for everything. So if you don't have big clamps like that, go online and find them and order them. They're great. How do you get everything so straight and lined up and, you know, not wonky? And this is how. So I'm going to do that so that I don't move everything. You'll see how long this takes me, and you'll see why I never do this on camera. Okay, so I have that, and now I have to, again, dry fit everything. Get that out of my way. Because there's a chance that this, if I didn't get this cut perfect, and it actually is bigger on this side, that your back, my back might be recessed in kind of behind there. And if this frame is too wide at all, this won't open. It'll get stuck, right? So when I put this together, I guess I didn't mention that, and I should have. If when you do your accordion part, when you put it together, you have to make sure that the smallest width is your front and the widest width is your back. If I had it this way in there and my thing didn't fit, you know, this was too big, I might not be able to get my door open. I mean, I guess it would look okay, but I think it looks better if it's gonna get narrower as you go, to get narrower at the front. That's just me. So I guess maybe it doesn't matter, but I think it's gonna look better this way. Okay, so I'm gonna put that like that, and I see where I'm kind of lined up with my door that I fit in there. So I can be more to that side. Okay, so I want to, trying to decide if I want to glue the back in first and then glue the front down. It might be a smarter way to go. I guess I'm just worried that I won't be able to get my hands in there and get that smushed down really good. I guess I can clamp it like this. Okay, we're just gonna wing it. We're gonna try. If I screw it up, we just undo it and start over. Okay, so I've got my Mod Podge here. Now, people use different kind of glues. You may have one that's better, so let me know in my comments if you think something's better, if you've tried both. But I tend to use Mod Podge for everything because it works. I can buy these big containers of it, you know, which is cheaper the bigger you get. And then I just pour into this little plastic thing what I think I'm gonna need. And then if I don't use it all, I can put it back in the container and I don't waste it. I got something in there. So that's just what I use. I know people use bottles of glue or whatever, these Bella bottles or whatever they call them, but I don't use those because this seems to work. And you know, there's probably better, more expensive glues out there. I don't know. So if you do, you can, you know, share that with me, because like I said, I had this and it works, and so I keep buying more. So that, and then I'm just gonna stick this in there and pray I get it all lined up. See, I was just worried about being able to get in there and do that if I have the front glued first. So I can use my little plastic card and try to smush that down good. Let's see if that's gonna stay. Ooh, I think so. I may be able to even get in there with my hand. Make sure it's smushed all the way to the edges. So I think that's fine. The good news is you don't see that. The other thing I didn't mention, but if you've watched any of my videos, you know I already did it, is I always use this Distress Oxide, this vintage photo, to do all my edges. And obviously I had to do that on all this stuff before I even glued it together. So that's just a step I didn't mention, but you know me, I always do that. Okay, so now that I have that, I don't want to do the door first. I want to do the door last because I want to make sure it opens and closes. So I need to do this edge of my frame. So I'll put some glue on that. These ribbons are really in my way. Maybe if I untie that one, it'll be out of my way. Okay. Get rid of that. I don't need that anymore. Okay, so carefully, I'm getting some on my door, but I think I'll live. We'll see. Okay, that wipe up my glue really fast because I don't want it to dry on there. I love these little craft mats too because they let you clean up everything. Okay, and I'm gonna go right into my edge all the way first. Sometimes this starts to dry, and that would be my biggest thing about Mod Podge. Maybe some of those other ones have more of a working time. Is it dries too fast sometimes, but I'm going to show you how I deal with that. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and clip right up against, I'm not sure if I'm in the frame or not, but I'm clipping right up against my binding edge here because I can add glue. These are drying already, but I can add glue, but I want to at least get this one in here done and clamped. Okay, so I'm going to start here because I know I'm going to have to add more glue. Oops. So I'm going to add this right to my book. Now the one thing I didn't do that I should have done probably, but I can do it after, is if I wanted to ink my edges of my book already here, I should have done that. I didn't, but it's okay. Okay, right next to the other one. That's ink helps you forgive little things that didn't get, you know, quite lined up, that kind of thing. So that's very handy to me. And I think I'm gonna jump over. Let's go ahead and put my hand there. I'm gonna go do the other end, I think, first. I don't really worry too much if there's excess on here because that's what's on there already is glue. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm glad I didn't ink my edges because when you do get glue on it and you know, oops, have to wipe it off, it actually changes the color of it yellows it a little bit in this color's case, which is fine. I don't mind it, but it depending on your paper, if you get things too wet, you go try to clean it or wipe it off after, and you end up, the paper starts coming apart. So, but now you see why having these bulldogs having these nice flat surfaces, see, they're flat now so that you actually get to cover more surface while you're holding it. Now see, I have a little ripple there, so I have to be careful about that. So maybe I'm gonna go here and take these off. This is where you get to see reality TV. It does not always work perfectly. Reality YouTube. You probably think, oh yeah, see, she's not as neat as you think she is. She's not. And it's getting slimy from my glue. Okay. So say a prayer that this all works. It is Sunday after all, isn't it? Oops. Okay, that side. Now I still kind of have glue on this, and I had those clips on for a minute already, so it actually is kind of sticking. So I'm going to go ahead. I don't need to add more. These clamps, I almost didn't leave enough room for that extra cardstock thickness to get these clamps on. So you want to take that into account, I guess, when you're deciding how thick of to make your recess, make it your clamp fit on it with a little extra room for your cardstock cover that you're going to have. Because now when I go to put the backside on and try to clamp that, ooh, it's going to be hard. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that on for a second. In fact, probably these first ones I can take off already and see where we're at with my thing. Is still stuck in there. Oh, I think it's gonna work. It's gonna work. I love that when something you dream at night, you know, you're able to engineer it during the day. And then, you know, this is the first time I've done this, so you never know if it's actually gonna work how you think. It's funny how so many things work in my dreams, but then by the time I wake up in the morning, seriously, if I haven't tried to start doing it or written it down or something, I lose it. I can't remember. It's, you know, a lot of people don't remember their dreams. So, oops, I'm gonna mess here. So I think we're good so far. Okay, so I like it so far. I'm gonna ink that edge so that doesn't show, but first I can go ahead, I think, and glue my front down. Okay, so all I need to do is put glue on these and then smush it. See, that was better. I was gonna do it the other way, and I think that would have been harder. So I'm just gonna, you could even probably use really strong double stick tape here too, but I want it to stick good. So I'm gonna do this. And use my big wide brush. This brush almost ate it the other day. I finished, I always leave my room at 5 o'clock to go do dinner. And I must have got distracted with a phone call or something. But I left the room and I had not put my brush in water. And I usually don't come back here after, and it was when I started doing the slow stitching. So after dinner, I came in to get my embroidery stuff, and I saw my poor Mod Podge brush sitting in its glue, and I saved it. So good to know that it can live in there for an hour or two without being stuck forever. Okay, see if I can get my little fingers in there. I can see that it's a little ripply. here's a good tip, make the first pocket big enough to fit your hand in, and that way you can get all the way to the bottom. So that's a tip. Oh, yay. I think it worked. For all of you who hung in there with me to the end, look, I think it worked. Yay. Okay, so we have another little secret spot. So we can just go like that. Put little stuff in there. See, it's gonna bulge, but that's okay. It's kind of cool. And then I just want to do my little ink here, just to dirty up that edge, that white edge. And you can see this is a perfect place where I've shown this before. If it's too, you want, like say I don't want to get it all on this edge, which maybe I will, I don't know. If I don't want to get it all on that edge, I just want it on that little tiny bit that sticks out. Use the little makeup eyeshadow brush. So I don't know, I may go just dirty up the whole thing. What the heck, right? Okay, I like it. Let's see, I'm gonna need that. Okay, so now I just have to glue that page down. That should be much easier. The hard part is just that you're trying to smoosh it against some kind of lumpy stuff back here. But that's why I haven't folded that heart yet. In every other book I've done, I fold the heart first because I have no idea what I'm going to do with the rest of the book. And sometimes I've actually just sold them that way, with just the heart folded, just the outside painted, and maybe some pages pulled out and gessoed or something painted. And so then, you know, I kind of already have the heart done. It makes it a little harder, but it's all doable, you know. Now, when I've shown this before too, when I glue stuff like this, just because your glue dries kind of fast, I don't glue the whole page at once. I do like, I start at the end and make sure I kind of get that going before I start doing it. And actually, maybe I go this way, it might be easier. Because basically, I'm just gluing that one piece of paper to it, right? I don't know what's going to happen with the rest of that yet. And if I did, it would be easier, but I don't. So I was thinking I might have this whole section in front of the heart done, you know, in one video. And that way we could move on to the next fun thing. But once I started getting this going and realized I had never done it before and it might take a while and I really want to explain it well because it's an experiment, I decided that I better go ahead and do this video, because otherwise they get too long and I think I lose you, but which I don't blame you. I'm to the point where I don't watch videos as much anymore now that I've started doing it, because I have a lot of ideas already. So far I haven't really gotten stuck, you know, where I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I kind of like the idea of thinking I came up with it on my own, which I know is ridiculous because I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure other people have done things. So maybe if I ever run out of ideas, I'll start watching videos again. But if you have a channel and you're watching this, let me know you do. Put a link on the thing and I'll subscribe to yours too, and I'll watch stuff. Now, if this bugs you, which if you're a perfectionist, it might, is I would just get my little nice sharp little scissors and just trim that. So I know I'm very detail oriented. I try not to say I'm a perfectionist because people think that's a bad thing. But I would say, no, I'm just detail oriented. So I'll cut that off. And then I could, you know, ink it up again. I won't do all that now. So that came out pretty okay, right? Just one page to my book paper. And then my little booklet will go in here. And I'll have that section done. And then I just have my What I Love About You section that I don't know yet. And I have all these pages left, okay, to go in here. I don't know what I'm going to do in here yet, basically. I know this is going to go somewhere in there. And when I originally did this, I went ahead and I scored a wider little trough there because I thought it's probably going to have some thickness in here. I wasn't sure if this was maybe where I was going to put in that removable book. But since I'm going to put a book here and a book here, I do like that I have that space. The other thing that I had thought I might do is make this one of those kind of where accordion fold out envelope things or something. And so I needed that thickness. So I'm only mentioning this because these are the pages I have left to deal with. And this is going to take up maybe half of those, right? Or even more if I want. And I may do again, kind of like I did this one where it's one signature, but it actually is multiple things. So it's going to take up all the rest of those pages. So I'll figure that out for the next video. And it'll be a whole other tutorial of whatever I figure out. And then we're close to done. Then it's just gluing in that front and back and me doing something with this. So I hope that you learned something new today. I know I did. I had never done that before. So I'm glad it worked. I'm glad you joined me. If you like this one, please thumbs up. And I love hearing your comments. I honestly do. I'm going to have to start giving shout outs to different people when I start a video, because you don't know how much that feeds me, because I am so new to this, and all the encouragement is very helpful to make me keep wanting to do it and keep coming up with ideas, because that's a challenge, you know. And I like to get inspired by other people too. So I hope you'll comment and stick with me here. Follow me on Facebook, because I do other things, and sometimes I post things there in between. And I've been really bad. I used to do a monthly drawing for like $100 gift certificate to my jewelry website. I skipped the last couple of months just because I had been so sidetracked. So I feel bad about that, because I had just gotten to where probably the last couple of years I did it every single month. So basically what that is if you follow my Facebook page, if you like, share, or comment, every time you do that, no matter how many times in the month, I put your name in a bowl, and then I do a drawing at the end of the month. And last year, I think I did at the end of the year, I took all the names from the whole year, and I drew 12 names. I think they were for like $25 gift card. But anyway, so I'll probably do something like that. So jump over to my Facebook page, you know, engage yourself there, and then maybe you get entered in a drawing and win. So enjoy the rest of your day. Now go make something. Bye.